Hi everyone, and this is going to be an unusual edition of Rage Print. So last week, I attended the May the Toys Be With You opening event with the Gloucestershire Troopers. I took R2 along, and he was a big hit, as he always is. Now, I transport him in the back of my car. It's a estate car, and so he was lying down in the back. The dome was off. Essentially, he was resting on here and the back of the feet, along the back of the car. So feet towards the front of the boot, towards the boot entrance. Did the event. It was a really hot day. It was one of the hottest days in the UK. Brilliant. But it was indoors for all of it, so I wasn't worried about anything, like the dome warping or any of these printed bits warping. I was fine. The only problem I did have was the cobbles trying to get into the to the event. That did cause me problems, and it jolted a few things loose. Now, you kind of expect that, and you have spares on hand to fix it, and that's what I did. Finishing the event, had to drive him back to the car park, and going back to the car. Well, I actually drove the car around, put him in the back of the boot. It's in the boot. Got home. It's late, so I just left him in the car. Brought the dome in because 3D printed dome, hot cars, don't want anything warping. And then, so I left him in the car, didn't think anything of it. The next day, I intended to get out, to get him out of the car and put him back in here in the garage. Completely forgot about it. I was decorating my daughter's bedroom. Then we needed to use the car. Realised that R2's still in the car, so get him out of the car. So I got him out of the car, and everything was just a little off. I went to lift him out of the car, and he just felt a bit sort of pliable. He's not soft, but like everything wasn't quite as tight as it should be. It's like, okay, that's not right. Got him back down on the drive, started to push him up the drive, and the front foot was catching on the drive. I've got, as you know before, I've got paving stones. But I've driven over that loads of times, no problem. So why was it catching? Don't know. But basically, he was like he's going to tip forwards every second. So got him back in the garage, and I had a good look over him. And first thing I noticed was in here. So the speaker mount has come off here, so it should be attached on that like that. My electronics board that's normally mounted here has come off. I don't know what damage has happened to that. The motor mount here is out of alignment. It's just looking a bit bad. The back door is just slightly out of alignment as well. This is warped. The legs themselves have very slightly warped. Let's make sure I get this right. They're warped that way and that way. So they're now no longer quite as true as they should be. I've had problems with this leg anyway, but basically where it was resting in the hot car all day, the heat he's sort of pushed down, and the legs are sort of bowed in slightly. Now I've tried to reattach them back on as best as I can. I've unscrewed them, tried to get him back to the right angle, and then tighten it back up again. But I've hit the limit of the cuts for the slots, obviously, because that's how they should be. I weren't supposed to go past that point. I shouldn't need to go past that point. Other things, this had warped, and these are popped out. They're quite easy to push back in, but this is now slightly warped, the blue bit. The foot panels have warped. Admittedly, the foot panels are 3D printed. The door, these have flattened out rather than stayed curved. They were never fully curved anyway, but they were more like this here, and now they've flattened out, and the same here as well. The utility arm boxes have broken away. Well, not quite broken away, but come loose. So if the utility arm comes out now, it's actually going to push back on itself and push these boxes out. Now these are plastic welded, styrene plastic welded to the styrene body, so that should be a strong thing, but it has melted off. And that's just the damage I can see. Obviously, I don't know what damage has occurred inside the foot shells or the legs themselves. The legs being warped, how much pressure is that putting on the legs to, try and stay in line? Yeah, basically there's a lot of visible damage, and there's potentially a lot of internal damage I can't see. God knows what I'm going to find when I move all this out of the way and move this. The connection's still okay, probably. It's only just fallen off. I can put the connections back on and everything, so it should be fine. I think he'll power back up okay. I think all the electronics will work. My concern would be if I try driving him, am I still going to get that want to sort of kind of tip forward motion that he is trying to do. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't get that hot in the UK, really. Well, saying that, we hit 40 degrees last year, didn't we? On average, it doesn't get that hot in the UK. So I didn't think anything about leaving a styrene droid in the back of my car. No, I didn't think anything about it. We all know the perils of leaving a 3D printed object in a car. It'll warp, that sort of thing. Hence why he's never stayed in the car longer than necessary. But yeah, styrene, never thought anything of it. And it turns out styrene will warp when pressure is applied, i.e. the entire, the batteries are still attached to the droid, the entire weight of the droid is pushing down on a particular point, it will warp over a sustained period of time in heat. It was a hot day the next day after the event. The car was in direct sunlight for about 6 hours, 7 hours by the time, after about midday. So yeah, it would have got hot in there, and the car did feel hot when I opened it. So yeah, essentially, I think I can get one more event out of R2, which is coming up next weekend. It's my kids' school fair. So R2 is going to make an appearance. I think I might be taking him as well. But that'll be Chopper's. That'll be R2's last event. I'm going to make the repairs so that he's usable. Make sure that he's safe, that he's not going to break instantly as soon as I drive. Do the event, reduce the amount of driving I'm going to do at the event anyway. It's going to be raining, so I suspect I'll be indoors anyway. And then I'm going to retire this body. Yeah, you heard me right. I'm retiring this R2 body. And I'm going to replace it with a Mark III. In fact, you can see I've already started. That's the bottom bit there. So the bottom's done. So essentially I printed this section. So yeah, I'm doing a Mark III Mike Badley. I know what you're thinking. Hang on, P.S.A warps. Won't you just have the same problem? Potentially, but then I don't intend to ever leave my droid in the car overnight and for the entire day on one of the hottest days of the year ever again. I'll just bring him in. So yeah, I'm going to be retiring the body. It sounds like a lot of work, and yes, it is a lot of work. I've got to print a whole new body, all the legs, all the feet, that sort of thing. But I do have the added advantage that I can cheat. The horseshoes and the hydraulic struts, booster covers, sorry, are already the Mike Badley ones. So I can just take those off, use the magnets, magnetise them to the new one. What else can I reuse? Obviously I can reuse the Lazy Susan, I can reuse the dome gear, I can reuse the motor gear, I can reuse all the electronics. Sort of. I'm going to switch into RC, but I can reuse 99% of the electronics. I can reuse the foot motors and the wheels and the chains. I can reuse the battery hoses. I could even reuse the dome. I'd have the intention of remaking the domes anyway, but for the meantime, I can reuse the domes. So it starts becoming less of a hard work than it actually sounds. It's just the printing. Obviously, I'm going to have to print all the greeblies because these resin ones won't necessarily fit a Mike Badley one, which is fine. They're saying that that is a 3D printed LDP. But it just also means that some things will look a bit better, like, you know, that's always annoyed me where I cut the door too short and I put a strip on. No one ever noticed, but I always knew it was there, and the fact that the doors are now no longer sitting flush, and the fact that body things I learnt building a styrene droid I can now pass on and make better with a 3D printed one. I could make another styrene droid. Honestly, I just don't have the time and patience to cut out all the styrene and redo it all, so I'd just rather print it and let the printer do the work. So yeah, I can reuse a lot of bits off the R2. I can reuse the dome. Likewise, I had an experiment where I was going to replace R2's front foot with the Omni wheel, so that's the Mark III front foot. Don't need to print that, I've already done it, and all the pieces for it. So, and we've even got another pair of booster covers over there. So, I've already started in pieces. It's just a case of now doing the rest of it. This is a very long-winded way of saying you can expect a new build series on Rageprint of building the Mark III very soon. I do have other things on the go as well, so this is going to be a bit sporadic, but ideally I'd like to get R2 built as soon as possible, because R2 is always the one that people want to see. People don't really know Chopper yet until Ahsoka comes out next month, so maybe he might get a bit more traction after that, in which case I can ease off the speed on this one. But yeah, that is essentially the situation I'm in. Also use it as a warning to all other styrene builders, especially those that live in hotter countries. Don't leave your droids in the car overnight. Droids die in hot cars, even the styrene ones, especially when they're resting on their legs and the back. If they're stood up, to be fair, if he was stood up in the back of the car, which he can't because of the height of the car, but if he was to be able to stood up in the car, this wouldn't have been a problem at all. He just would have been sat there fine, getting hot and then cooling off and whatever. It would have been fine. As it is, because he's lying down, I've now got this to deal with. So it's my own stupid fault. You know, totally 100% my stupid fault. I should have brought him in that night, or at least remembered in the morning to bring him in. So now I have to deal with the consequences. I've got to rebuild him. So, as I said, it's my own stupid fault. But you now get a build video of it of how to build the Mike Badley Mark III, which is something I've been promising Mike to do for ages. I just got distracted by that and that. So now, Mike, here you go. There'll be a Mark III build on the way, as promised. Yeah, so this is one of those really random update videos. I had no intention of recording it, but I thought I should. So, yeah, the future, a new R2 body. Oh, and you're wondering what I'm going to do with this when I finish building the new one? I have no idea. I'm sure somebody will want it. Just don't expect it to be a working droid. It'll be stripped for pieces. It'll be a shell of its former self. But yeah, we'll see. That's a long way off. So, thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for a Mark III build series. Bye for now.